Hey guys, Chef Billy Parisi here with The Inspired Home, and today I'm going to show you how to make an absolutely delicious homemade cheese tortellini soup with chicken and fresh vegetables. The first thing we need to do is make our pasta. So using some 00 flour or high protein flour, add it to a table and then form a well using your hands. The next thing we're going to do is add in our eggs to the center of that well, and using a fork we want to break up the yolks and give it a whisk just like you would if you're making scrambled eggs. And then you want to slowly mix in the flour from the outside and work your way in. Take time to do this, no need to rush it. And just so you know, I want you to feel confident when making pasta, so if it seems dry, add a little water. Don't think that this recipe is the end-all be-all because it will change based on humidity, size of eggs, etc. So using your bench knife, scrape all that goodness up and then form it with your hands. Start to knead the dough. And if I were you, I would set about a 7-minute timer. Take all that time to knead because you really want it to come together so that it runs perfectly through your pasta roller. So take the time to knead it. So what we're going to do next is sort of form it into a little ball, and using some plastic wrap we want to cover it up completely. So go ahead and wrap it up really well, and I like to fold it over and sort of wind up the ends to make sure it's sealed in there really tight and so it holds its shape. We want the dough to rest for about 30 minutes or so in the cooler. Let that gluten work in there real nice. But this is great because in the meantime we can make our filling. So I've got some whole milk ricotta and some Parmesan cheese. I'm using this great Rozzle cheese grater. It's nice and sturdy and it's perfect for those hard cheeses when you need to grate them. We're going to season up our filling with a little bit of salt. No need for pepper. We want to mix it completely until it's combined. We're going to set it aside to chill, and now we are going to get working on our pasta. So go ahead and remove it from the plastic. We're going to press it down, sort of flatten it out, and then using that same bench knife, we want to cut it into 3 different pieces because we obviously can't run that big chunk all the way through our pasta maker. So let's move our pasta maker over. This is a Gourmia pasta maker. It's got a little clamp to help hold it to the table. And then you simply put the crank right in. We're going to set it to the lowest setting to make sure the dough can run through with ease at the beginning. So go ahead and flour up one of the 3 dough balls and begin to simply run it through. You want to make sure to do this nice and slow so the dough doesn't break. Don't worry about folding over the dough. Let's take the setting down a little bit more, and we're going to run it through maybe 2 or 3 times at this point. You really just want to soften up the dough. You want to stretch it out a little bit, but you want to make sure the dough does not break. So if you see it start to shred apart or almost resemble cheese, if you will, maybe you need a little bit more flour. But really you're working the way down through the different settings till you get to a point when the dough is nice and thin. I like to think of the setting best around 5 or 6 to that perfect dough consistency where pasta is made. So once you get down that way, and don't rush it, we're going to have a really long, stretchy piece of beautiful dough. What we're going to do is simply set it to the side and do likewise with those other 2 pieces of dough. And next we're going to take our ricotta Parmesan filling and add little dollops all over our pasta dough because we're going to form it into our tortellinis. So using a Fox Run ravioli cutter, this is great because you can make raviolis, tortellinis with this, and you simply stamp it right into the dough right around the cheese, and out comes this beautiful little half of ravioli, if you will. So using some water, what we want to do is wet the outside edges and then simply pinch them together until they are sealed shut. This is important because when you cook them, you don't want the cheese to fall out. We're going to add another little dab of water, and then we're going to simply fold it over until it resembles a beautiful little tortellini just like this. So at this point, you can set them to the side, or I like to chill them. We're going to get started on our stock. I've got a beautiful Le Creuset deep 2-gallon stock pot. We're going to add in a whole roasting chicken, and you just touched raw chicken, so be sure to give your hands a really good rinse before you finished getting our stock together. We've got some onion, celery, and carrots we're going to add right on top of there, along with some fresh herbs. We've got some thyme, parsley, garlic, and a bay leaf. We're going to pour in some cold water, and the trick here is you want to be about 4 inches over the carcass of the chicken. So whether you stick your finger in there or whatever it takes, just make sure you're about 4 inches over those chicken bones. We want to simmer it on low to medium heat for about 45 to 60 minutes. The goal is to make sure the chicken is cooked, and this perfect deep pot is excellent for chicken stock. Once it is to that point, we want to strain the stock using a fine mesh strainer. I have a chinois strainer here. We just want to make sure the herbs and all of the vegetables are out. We're going to add that beautiful stock right back to the burner. And now what we want to do is begin making our soup. So go ahead and take the chicken out of the stock pot. We're going to sort of push back the skin because we don't have any use for it. And using a fork, we simply want to pull the chicken right off of the bones and get all of the breast meat, and be sure to get the dark meat too. And you want to roughly chop it. Just think of bite-sized pieces. And we're going to go right back to that stock pot with the chicken stock. We're going to add this chopped cooked chicken right into it, along with some sliced carrots, celery, onions, and finely minced garlic. And at this point, we want to add in some whole peeled tomatoes. I just simply crush them with my hands. We're going to simmer this on medium heat for about 20 to 25 minutes. You just want to make sure that the vegetables are tender. And once they are to that consistency, we are going to finish off the soup with some fresh baby spinach. I know it looks like a lot, but spinach wilts very easily, especially in hot liquid. So go ahead and mix it in until the spinach is wilted, and we'll continue to finish off our soup with some fresh herbs. I've got some finely diced oregano, parsley, and thyme. And of course, we're going to season it very well with salt and pepper. Remember, season once, taste twice. Make sure it is to that perfect consistency that you want in this soup. So while the soup is simmering on low heat, we're going to go over and cook off our tortellini. We've got a hot, large pot of boiling salted water. We're going to add in the tortellini, and be sure to stir it with a spoon. We want to make sure that the pasta isn't sticking to one another. And the easiest way to know when tortellini is done is when it floats to the top, maybe 3 to 4 minutes total cooking time. So go ahead and strain them and run them under cold water. And now it's time to plate up our soup. Go ahead and add in a few ladles of our delicious stew. We're going to add in 5 or 6 cheese tortellinis. We're going to finish it off with a lot of Parmesan cheese because I'm Italian, so why not? And some oregano, parsley, and thyme. And there you have it, a delicious, amazing cheese tortellini soup. There is nothing like homemade pasta, my friends. You will absolutely love this. You're looking at 2 to 2.5 hours total for this soup, but it is very well worth it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and for more great recipes and ideas, visit theinspiredhome.com.